Just want to say real fast when it comes to Jane Elliott, um, she, like we remember the day when Dr. King was killed. Now, just curious, were any of you guys 58? No. Okay. That was the day. We'll put it like that. Um, with that said, what started her is when Dr. King was killed, and she even said it. Dr. King was her hero. He was also my hero, for those of us who remember. Now, true enough, I was a kid when he died, but I do remember when he was killed, and it was a day. With all of that said, yeah, of course, it looks like she's selling out her people, la la la, et cetera, et cetera. But guys, I just want to say some of the stuff we went through that you guys do not know about, and that he's tired of seeing in the movies, and I don't blame him. I and everybody else is tired of seeing it in the movies. Hell, what about those of us who lived through it? With that said, um, black people still go through it, just like we still have the Republicans still making it where we have to fight for the right to vote in certain states. And this is 2023, excuse me. So we could go on and on and on about our struggle and what's different, not different,
That's
et cetera,
good.
et cetera. But what I do want to say is, well, okay, sir, do you remember Saturday, July 20th, 1968 at 4:30 p.m.?
I don't care.
Oh, you don't? Well,
No.
then there's no reason then going through it if there's
Yeah.
something you
I mean,
don't care
is
about.
it, how do you feel that that people who are black,
Huh?
I guess, how do you feel that they're asking now for segregation more than they did back then?
They don't remember what it was like you don't care
No, but they're
today, right?
no, but they're asking. It's funny because your generation went into businesses that were mainly white, right? You
Okay.
went into those businesses that were white,
Uh-huh.
and you demanded that they served you or whatnot against Barry Goldwater and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And what is it? How do you feel today? How do you reconcile that with the fact today that black people are saying we want our own thing and we don't want to be forced to be with whites?
Okay. What a lot of people forget, the reason why all that happened in the first place is because there were over 100 incidents like they were in Tulsa, Oklahoma,
So there were incidents where
where
if you're
blacks tried to have their own
mm,
businesses and
no.
homes and shit
So
and were killed and lynched.
okay. So
Remember, the
yeah,
water hoses and dogs and shit, all that shit happened when I was a kid.
the thing is this, I'm just going to be honest with you. I respect you because of your age, but
Hmm.
a lot of times people from your generation tell us
Hmm.
half stories. You don't tell us full stories about things that happen, right? Because if
Well,
you
if you
want to
don't
talk,
care, should we tell you
hold on,
any
no, hold on,
story?
hold on a second. You talked about the day of Martin Luther King's death, right? I
Hmm.
can tell you this: the riots
Hmm.
after that, which would
Hmm.
be your generation,
Hmm.
caused more segregation and poverty, right, for
Hmm.
black people
Hmm.
with white flight and all of that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Than anything that you may have accomplished with Martin Luther King.
Okay, so is that the reason why the Republicans are still fighting for us not to have the right to vote because of what we did in the 60s?
What
Mary, you look like
Today,
you have something you want to
Republicans
say.
got you the right to vote?
the Republicans did not get us the right to vote.
Really? You want
They
to look
did.
up what Southern Democrats did? Like, oh, Lapeef, I
I
don't want to. I don't
lived
want to hold
that.
this up.
I remember Senator Barry
Well,
Goldwater, sir.
maybe you're not remembering it clearly.
I was
I
there,
just think that I
but
just think
remember, you don't care.
no. I mean, I don't. I think that you guys are milking this stuff. I think that what
I'm
you're
not
doing is
milking anything. But okay,
No.
but that's the point I just wanted to say. See, we went through that. And what we went through, okay, you guys don't feel that pain. I understand that part of it. The thing is, though, she remembers those days like the rest of us. And they weren't easy days. And she's not doing it for clout. She's been doing this since King was assassinated.
Sir,
Don't you guys think that this is evidence? Like all the older people, like the older generation, they tend to believe exactly what the news tells them because they grew up in a time where the news was the only place they got their
yeah.
information.
They,
They be-
they
they
tell us
tend to
half stories.
Well, yeah,
They
and
tell us, they tell us half stories. I mean, the thing about it is this: I don't necessarily. I'm not going to say anything against him, but if I felt so bad about something, I wouldn't do something about it by going outside and singing a bunch of songs and writing on a bunch of signs. I think that that's very. I'm not going around begging other people to love me. I'm not going around because that's just that's my take on this. A lot of this stuff to me, and I wasn't there, so I could be wrong. But when I look back at it, I see just a bunch of people who went into other people's businesses and begged people to love them. And that's because I'm more of the Malcolm X school of thought. I wouldn't be more of the Martin Luther King school of thought, but I don't. And what has it gotten? Because all people have learned how to do since then is beg, protest, march. I don't
think this has anything to do with the point tonight, and we could shoulda, coulda, woulda all day till we blue in the face. Everybody can say what they would have done, what they could have done.
Different
it doesn't have
topic.
anything to do with it. Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with the
Different
topic tonight.
Yeah. But
maybe
the thing
one day,
about
Kelly.
it, honestly, but the thing about it is this: people still, when they don't get their way, they mimic what those people did. They march and they protest signs and all of that. It's just I'm not for it.
But this is how we're gonna feel when we're old. We're gonna look at younger people after us and say the same thing. Probably you don't know.
Down for another old head.
I was about to say that it requires it requires a lot of empathy, because when you haven't been in that position and you don't know what it is to live without television, for example, and you only hear what you were told. So we now have the resources, so we have to be empathetic with them. Like, I don't know if you ever tried. I have tried.
Do you cry from people calling you a name 60 years ago? If somebody shouted something at you driving by in a car,
no.
Do you cry about people not liking you?
No,
but that's all I see. That's all I see. That's all I see.
Traumatized by it. What I'm saying is empathy is how would you feel if you were in that situation? It's not.
I would probably laugh. I would probably laugh. I'm sorry.
That's because with the knowledge that you have now. That's
because
why you're saying
I'm not begging for other people to love me.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of what.
The reason why, hold on a second, let me say this one point. The reason why, even when we began the show tonight, you felt like people were a victim was because of people like that. They think that all Black people are victim and our entire identity is being a victim. And I just don't identify with that. I'm sorry. I feel like I think there were some people who wanted to make breakthroughs, but then there are other people who are in a constant state of begging people to love them. They want people to like them. They cannot exist if white people don't like them. Yeah. And so I'm tired of them looking for somebody to like them. And I'm just not, I'm not with it.
That's actually what exists today. A bunch of people that just want.
Yeah, and they learn that.
White people have not been in the way for a very long time.
And they learn that from that generation, because how did that generation get what they wanted? They got what they wanted by begging other people, by writing on signs and all of this. And
but that's why there were two different sectors. There was Malcolm X's side. Malcolm X is more like you, and then there was Martin Luther King. You would probably be more on the Malcolm X side, right?
You don't have a conversation with the elders by completely just disregarding what they're saying.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly my point.
Hang on, Eric.
He was jumping.
In order for you to actually bridge this gap, you have to listen to what they say. Now, I agree with you, Eric. I honestly think you're right on the right path. I'm right there with you. But in order for us to have this actually work, we have to listen to what they say. We have to understand what they say, and then we have to give them the tools to get past that victimhood.
But the thing is this: number one, I agree you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And then the second thing, I asked him several times. I said, explain to me Tulsa. Everybody loves using Tulsa and the Black Wall Street. Well, explain what happened. Because obviously what you're telling me is that some people destroyed something that other people built. Well, it took them a while to build that stuff. So why don't you tell the full story of what happened in Tulsa, not just the response? Like, that's what I'm saying. And I'm tired of people using stuff like, well, back in Tulsa and all this pseudo history that we use today to brainwash Black youth that they're victims and they can't do anything and there's some white boogeyman under their bed. I'm tired of this. And let's say that there is. Let's say white people are as bad as you say they are. Okay, you got to adapt and move around that. How long are we just going to keep talking about the problem? And the reason why if white people were, if these oppressive figures were really that bad, you wouldn't talk about, you would just adapt accordingly. You would not go to them begging them to give you something, because that's all this is. I'm flopping to the ref trying to get to the free throw line, and I'm just not with it. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe if we do, maybe when we do the. Oh, did you want to say something, Barnett? I'm sorry. Right ahead.
Yeah. It's. I just wanted to quickly on Eric. It's interesting that you talk about that, and for people who don't know, 10 people got murdered in front of the courthouse in Tulsa. 10 of my people. And that's what started it. Doesn't justify it, but that's the truth that's never told. So, Eric, that's interesting you bring that up. Secondly, as far as the other gentleman goes, I do believe it was harder for him back in the day, and definitely deserves perhaps respect and understanding. Obviously, maybe sometimes we all get out of touch.